Hey there, Vikings fanatics, football fanatics. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I am accompanied by the. He is not a fan of Transformers. I just learned
No, not
that.
really.
Adam Carlson.
Hi there, welcome to the show. I find Vikings football to be a lot more intellectually stimulating than Transformers, and it has a lot less Shia LaBeouf, so that's another big positive for me.
Well, me too. I like Vikings football too, but Transformers are fine. Shia,
I'd like
maybe not so much, but
I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 96 of the Purple People podcast. We're closing in on number 100. This is getting exciting.
I know it.
I've titled this episode Blast from the Pass.
Okay, yeah, that's a good segue into something we're going to be talking about here in a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
hmm
That and it was a interesting movie if you've never watched it. It's a cute little romantic comedy kind of thing, time
That's
jumping
that's the
thing.
one
It's
with
fun.
Brendan Fraser.
Fraser, yes.
Yeah, I vaguely
He gets
remember
mad if you
that.
say Frasier.
Is it? I always thought it was Fraser.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
Well, good thing I'm not on a first name basis with him.
Well, if you were, then you wouldn't have to say his last name.
Ah, there you go. You got me.
Let's go into the quick hits now. I've only
Okay.
got 3 this week, so this will be nice and short.
hmm
The first is about defensive end. We have Everson Griffin, who is slated to take the right defensive end job that Jared Allen used to have. They're keeping Brian Robinson at the left defensive end, even though he is the more established, seasoned pass rusher. It's interesting because usually they'll move the more prolific guy over to the other side, but it seems like they're going to keep it the way they had it. And to be honest, I kind of like this idea.
Hey, I like it too. I like the continuity of keeping Brian where he's at. I think that he will actually be the guy that defenses will maybe shift their attention towards a little bit, and that will give Everson maybe some one-on-one opportunities early on to prove what he can do. And I like it.
I mean, Everson Griffin will have to earn his stripes as a pass rusher,
Oh, for sure.
as a starter. So teams may focus on Robinson a lot more at the beginning of the season, but I think that towards the middle or end of the season, they'll know that
hmm
Everson Griffin isn't a guy you can leave unaccounted for or even sometimes leave on single blocks. So interesting
And
situation there.
and you never know. This is going to be a defense of many different looks. Could there be a package where they flip the two ends around and have them
Oh,
play
sure.
on opposite sides? Sure, why not? Like it's all on the table as
You
potentials
could see a
that could happen.
situation where the two defensive tackles stay in and the two ends fall out into pass coverage.
Yeah,
I mean, Zimmer is such a creative defensive mind that really it's nice to have these guys that offer this kind of versatility, and really to pigeonhole them as being the certain positions is just a base
definitely, definitely.
because there's no telling what they're actually going to do on the field.
hmm
Into talking about our former defensive end, Jared Allen. Jared Allen says that he likes having a quarterback in Chicago and he's happy to be a Bear because that gives him a chance to win in the postseason.
Yeah, that's more power to Jared Allen. We're thinking so. Personally, I last year was a bit of a fluke for the Vikings that I base a lot of it on incompetent coaching staff. And even though Chicago has, Jay Cutler, who's more established maybe than Matt Castle, I still don't think Chicago is that much better than Minnesota.
Cutler's between good and great on the quarterback scale. I
Yeah,
wouldn't put him up near elite or anything like that,
no.
but I'd say he's a pretty good quarterback,
hmm
pretty close to great. But the postseason thing was the one that rubbed me wrong because, to be honest, I don't see the Bears as that much of a better team than the Vikings, and last year they didn't show much to make me think that they really had enough of a solid roster to make a push towards the playoffs, let alone a postseason berth. So, and Jared Allen, a lot of people are interpreting his comments as shots.
Yeah,
That it's disrespecting the Minnesota Vikings, saying that the Vikings didn't have a chance to win the postseason, that they didn't have a quarterback. Well, yeah,
that's
they
true.
struggled finding their quarterback. I'll
Yeah.
give them that one.
hmm
But Jared Allen was part of the defense that was last ranked in the league in giving up points and yards. So I think that for him to not own up to that a little bit is kind of disheartening because I like him as a player. I like the stuff he does off the field. But to me, when you own up to your own responsibilities, that's something that makes you a player that's above and beyond the Call of Duty.
Yeah, and I realize that we're going to be a little we're Vikings bias when it comes to looking at the two teams, but I'm right with you, Adam, on if when they draft well and Rick Spielman puts together another solid draft and you get some competent coaches in here, like I understand where Jared was coming from on the Vikings have had 6 years to take care of the quarterback position, and they didn't really do it in that span of time. So, what would lead him to believe that they're going to do it for the remaining 3 or 4 years that he's got to play in the league? So, I understand his motives for wanting to go on, though I still don't think that Chicago is ultimately going to be all that much better of a team than Minnesota.
I want to go on record as saying that if Jared Allen went to Chicago to get his Super Bowl ring, he's going to be very sad because I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think so either. I We could probably spend a lot of time talking about this, but we should probably wrap it up. But I think that it was a combination of Jared wanting to get a large payday and him also not wanting to be a rotational player. Because he said that in his press conference. I don't know if you listened to it, but his big thing is that he wants to go out there and he still wants to continue to play every single down.
Yeah.
And Chicago is going to be willing to do that with him. And I think Seattle, I'm pretty confident that Seattle would have wanted to use him as more of a rotational guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. My last quick hit, which they haven't been very quick so far, but
Well, you know.
this one should be quick. The Vikings are rumored to have minimal interest in former Eagles wide receiver Deshaun Jackson. Honestly, they probably can't afford him anyway, and they don't really want that kind of influence in the locker room. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but from what I've seen in games and from his attitude off the field, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy you'd want to add to a locker room that's got a nice continuity going on.
Deshaun is a playmaker, no doubt about it, but didn't the team just get rid of a headache in Percy Harvin? And I don't think you want to bring in another guy who is the Percy Harvin headache probably multiplied by 2 or 3. Like, yeah, let's keep let's keep the nice little continuity that we got.
Absolutely. Keep
Mhm.
drafting our own players, develop them, and let the Vikings become the Vikings, not the cast-offs like what you
Like the
saw in
Oakland,
teams.
like the
Yeah,
Oakland Raiders.
the Raiders, I don't know what they were doing. They go out in free agency, and I
And
don't think they picked up a player that was under 30 years old.
they try to. Some teams. This is always funny to me. You get the teams who supplement in free agency, and then you've got the teams who try to build an entire roster in free agency. And I've never been a big fan of going out and, well, we're just going to build an entire roster out of free agent signings. I'm not a fan of that.
I'd understand a lot of those signings if they were in win now mode. And the Vikings going out and getting these young guys, that's saying, hey, we're not really looking for a win now situation. We're looking to get on our feet. And that goes right into our major topic, which is
Mhm.
we're looking at the top quarterbacks in the draft. We're going to do a quick comparison of them all, talk about which one we prefer.
Mhm.
We were scheduled to have a third person on with us tonight, but sadly things fell through and he was unable to be here. He was going to argue for the side of Blake Bortles,
Mhm.
but we're going to do our best to try to fill in with the numbers and information that we have. So rest with us on that one.
Can I say before we get started, I have literally been looking forward to talking about this all day today.
Nice.
Yeah, like I've been at work and I'm like, I can't wait to talk about quarterbacks tonight. This is going to be fun.
It is. And we got to choose our own quarterbacks, and
Hmm.
Kyle West chose one that I think that he has some interest in.
I do. Do you want me to go first or?
Sure, you can lead
Oh,
off.
okay, sure. I am going to talk about Johnny Manziel, aka Johnny Football, the quarterback from Texas A&M. I'm sure some Vikings fans have heard of him. I know a lot of people out there would like to see Johnny Football drafted in
Oh, sure.
Minnesota. So I don't know what exactly you have wrote down for your breakdown, but I'm just going to go through my notes here. I did a little scouting report. I'm making air quotations when I do that
Okay.
on Mr. Football. um, his height, 5'11" and 3/4 inches tall is his height. He's just under 6 foot, 207 pounds, 9 7/8 inch hand size. He ran a 4.68 40-yard time. That was his pre-draft measurables. So he is a small quarterback to say the least. His stats coming out of college: 68.9% completion percentage for 7,820 yards. He threw 63 touchdowns to 22 interceptions with a 164.1% passer rating. On the ground, Johnny Manziel had 2,169 rushing yards with an average of 6.3 yards per attempt and 30 rushing touchdowns. My breakdown on Johnny Manziel is that he is not your prototypical NFL quarterback. He is not going to stand in the pocket and deliver down the field strikes with pinpoint accuracy. His body is undersized, and you know what, Adam? His head looks like it's about 3 times too big, perhaps to accompany the large ego that comes with this kid. But you know what?
Manziel does like himself some Manziel.
Definitely. But you know what? Make no mistakes about it. I think that Johnny Football is exactly the kind of player you want to have on your team, and here is why. He is an extraordinarily dynamic player on the field, one who does not shy away from the spotlight. In fact, he seems to thrive upon it. The bigger the game, the better his ability becomes to perform. And I am convinced that no amount of first round pressure will make this kid crack. I think he will thrive upon that situation. He brings a unique set of skills to the table. He can make plays with his legs, moving in and out of the pocket, scrambling for extra yardage or big gains on the field. Though he doesn't have the strongest arm of the potential first-round quarterbacks, he still has the ability to make any throw on the field with accuracy, and he was going to drive defenses nuts with his Favre-like ability to improvise and get the ball out of his hands and into the hands of his receivers however possible. And
Okay.
to clarify about the Favre statement, they do it in two different ways. Favre was the gunslinger, that's not Manziel, but they both have the ability to improvise and make things up when the play breaks down. His small stature is going to allow him to zig and zag between defenders and avoid sacks. If he can step up into pressure and make throws that look like they should be impossible, that is something that he has the ability to do. But with his small size comes one of my big concerns with him. Can he stay healthy for a full NFL season?
That's my
Because
top concern with Manziel is his durability.
that is mine as well too, Adam. You see guys like Michael Vick, who it's impossible for him to stay healthy, and Manziel is a little bit smaller than Michael Vick. So what's going to happen? Can he stay? Can he stay there for a full season? I think his footwork needs to improve, as well his ability to work out of a pro style offense. Because if he wants to have longevity, the scrambling, the doing this, the doing that is going to be fine early on, but he has to show an ability to work out of the pro offense. If you've seen his pro day, you've seen that he at least has the ability to learn that, and I think that's something that he can work towards, but that's going to be up to his future coaching staff to develop him to his fullest potential. He has the biggest boom or bust potential of any of the quarterbacks, and I think he'll either be a massive success or a colossal failure.
Yeah,
And that is my scouting report on Johnny Manziel.
nice.
Hmm.
Like I said, my biggest concern with Manziel is his durability. But when you add in that the NFL has already set a really awkward precedent for quarterbacks like him, I know a lot of people like to compare him to Russell Wilson because of Russell Wilson's recent success. But Manziel seems to play more like an RG3 type player who tends to focus a bit more on the run and relies more on his legs than his arm
Hmm.
to make plays. And that's something in the NFL that got RG3 in a lot of trouble, and it could do the same for Manziel. Manziel will have to mentally change the way he thinks about football when he goes to an NFL team, and I'm not sure if that's something he's going to be able to pull off. Another concern of mine about Johnny Manziel is the caliber of his teammates. He has two teammates that could also be first round selections. One of them's guaranteed, and that's his left
His,
tackle.
hmm
And the other one is his 6'5" wide receiver, Mike Evans.
Yeah, Mike Evans. You can make a case for who made who. Did Johnny Manziel make Mike Evans, or did Mike Evans make Johnny Manziel? A little bit of both, but
So you've got Manziel surrounded by all this talent. You've got him with a few question marks, red flags surrounding his character off the field,
hmm
surrounding his durability.
hmm
This is a guy that we could see slide on draft day, even way past 8 if the Vikings do pass on a quarterback. And we could see the Vikings jumping back in the first round to get him because Manziel has those flags that can make him drop, but he also has the intangibles, like the confidence. He does not lack confidence in any sense of the word.
and I love that
He
from a quarterback.
he can complete passes when they're open. He can do it.
Hmm.
But does he need that elite wide receiver? And could the Vikings offer that for him? Although I like Greg Jennings and I like Cordero Patterson, neither of them are the huge targets like he had with a guy that he did at Texas A&M.
Mike Evans. Yep.
Right.
Hmm.
So to me, the risk on Johnny Manziel isn't worth the number 8 draft pick. That's not to say I don't like the guy. I think he can develop and turn into a really good professional football quarterback. But I don't think we'll see it right away, and I think he would do best learning for a season or two behind someone of a comparable skill set, and I don't think that Matt Castle is that guy
Hmm.
that could help him learn. So those are my issues with Johnny Manziel.
And I agree with you for the most part on your assessment of him there as well too, Adam.
Now I had Teddy Bridgewater.
Hmm.
Now I have not really hidden my fact that I'm a Teddy Bridgewater supporter. If you look back on the podcast, maybe even 6, 7 months, Bridgewater was a guy that I said that I would love to see in Minnesota. Maybe because he has 3 seasons of experience underneath him, which is the same as Blake Bortles and a year more than Manziel. And Bridgewater is a pocket passer. If you want a guy who can stand in the pocket, deliver a pass accurately, especially shorter passes that can develop into longer plays, Teddy Bridgewater is your man. He's perfect for a West Coast offense kind of style where you can drop the ball off, pick up a first down, and open up that big pass in the passing game where he can complete the long passes, even though it's something he's not known for in his game. The best part of Teddy Bridgewater, though, is his football intelligence. 72 passing touchdowns, 24 interceptions. The man makes good decisions with the football. His completion percentage sits around 68.4, which is pretty similar to that of Johnny Manziel. But you see Bridgewater with a different kind of confidence. His is more of a poised confidence and a silent confidence. A lot of people call him bland and vanilla because he's not out there and he's not the kind of guy that you're going to see in Hardee's commercials or whatever the heck it was. McDonald's? Was it McDonald's?
Uh, Off the top of my head, I don't even remember.
I think it was a McDonald's commercial for Johnny Manziel. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. But Teddy Bridgewater, although he can run the ball when needed and he will take the opportunities, it's not something that's a big part of his game, which is good because the Minnesota Vikings have a really good running back in Adrian Peterson,
Hmm.
and you don't need to put your quarterback in that kind of risk by designing rollout plays because the quarterback's more comfortable doing it. We saw that with Ponder last year when he had his shots to start. Plays designed to roll the quarterback out of the pocket, and it just interrupted the flow of the game.
Of course, to be fair on that point, they were rolling Ponder out to his left for no apparent reason.
That did happen.
Yes.
I don't understand a lot of the knocks on Bridgewater. Everyone's calling him Teddy Bustwater, and I understand that, catchphrases and names are pretty cool and everything, but if you like Johnny Manziel, there's no reason to hate on Bridgewater. Bridgewater's a good quarterback too.
Hmm.
A lot of the red flags about him have been he commented that he's not a big fan of playing in cold weather. You know who else made that comment before he was drafted? Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and it seemed to work out pretty good for him.
So before people say, oh, he can't play in cold weather because he said he doesn't like it, I'm not sure that's
Well,
always the case.
to be fair, given the opportunity, what would you rather do? Would you rather sit outside in Arizona in like 70-degree weather, or would you rather freeze your ass off in 20 below weather? I'm
Valid
I'm,
points.
I'm probably gonna pick the warm weather.
Yeah, definitely. And the other major knock that I've seen on Bridgewater that doesn't make sense to me is at the combine they measured his hand size.
Hmm.
And a lot of people said, okay, with his hand size, he's going to be fumbling a lot. In 3 seasons at Louisville, Teddy Bridgewater lost 2 fumbles. Two.
Yeah.
He fumbled 9 times. That's 3 times each season.
In
This is
other
not a
words,
concern, guys.
in other words, he's pretty secure with the football in that department, right?
Exactly. His mental acumen kind of overshadows any of his physical limitations with his hand size because of his ability to deliver the ball to an open receiver from the pocket. And if you've ever watched Teddy Bridgewater's tape, the guy has such unbelievable pocket presence. He seems to know where the rush is coming from because he reads defenses so well right off the bat. Bridgewater is the least risky of all the quarterback picks in the first round, I feel,
Precisely.
because he has the most experience. He has attempted 1,142 pass attempts. That's about 300 more than Manziel or Bortles. And he has 3 years of college experience, and he got better each year
Hmm.
as a quarterback. So if they could take him, sit him for a year behind Matt Castle, who's also a really, I'm not going to say really good, but he's a good pocket passer. He's a guy that Bridgewater could learn and develop from. Bridgewater could be a guy that sits on the bench for a year behind Matt Castle and takes over the reins in a year or two and can play at a very high level. So those are my ideas about Bridgewater. I think that a lot of people just want Manziel because of
They want
the
something.
factor, the excitement factor.
They want something different.
I think it's the same reason, and I'm not comparing the two quarterbacks when I say
Hmm.
this, their skill sets. It's the same reason a lot of fans wanted Tebow because
Some.
it's a name they were familiar with, they
Mhm.
recognized it, and the guy brings excitement. You saw him on SportsCenter all the time. You saw him doing interviews. Heck, it got to the point where having him on your team sold tickets, even if he was sitting on the bench.
Yeah, Minnesota fans want something. It almost feels like we've tried. The team has tried for that prototypical stand in the pocket, make throw, and I'm saying it monotone like this is a bad thing, but it's not. But you know what I mean? It's like, well, they've tried the kind of the prototypical route for it, so let's go for someone who's unprototypical. Because the current hot trend in the NFL is because of the success of Russell Wilson and Colin Kaepernick, is your smaller, lankier quarterbacks who can scramble and make plays with the feet and move and shift the pocket, and that's the new hot trend. So
Right.
that's what a lot of people see in Manziel, obviously, and they want to continue continue along with that? Well, it would be like Christmas if Teddy Bridgewater fell to us in the draft, Adam, if we were able to
True.
get him. Because it would, I understand that that's maybe the boring pick out of the two, but honestly, I would say that would be the smart one to go
Yeah.
with if the two are both there at the exact same time. Smart pick is Teddy Bridgewater. Johnny Manziel has, I think, a higher
A higher
potential.
ceiling,
Yeah, a
but he
higher.
has a lower floor.
Uh huh. Definitely.
Teddy Bridgewater's floor is very high.
Hmm.
He's set up throughout his years at college to succeed at the pro level. He's got the mental what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. But he has enough experience to where he can look at the situations and say, this can work for me.
Hmm.
And that's something that I love about Teddy Bridgewater.
Hmm. And what I love about Manziel is just, like I said, that ability for him to get the team in the huddle and say, we're going to score on this play right here. We're going to do it. And he believes it. He believes they're going to score on it. And so he's going to
Right.
get everyone else on there buying into that philosophy. That is super important. And part of the reason why I think someone like a Christian Ponder, who has all the intangibles, but it doesn't quite work out, is I think Ponder hits a point where maybe he doesn't believe that they're going to go out there and they're going to score and they're going to win. And I think that Manziel is always going to believe that some way or another he's going to get that team in a situation where they're going to win. And I like that from a quarterback.
Definitely. So I know that a lot of listeners and people on the website from for the Viking Age and on Purple People podcast feel that I'm a Manziel hater. I'm not. I like Manziel. I like some of the things he brings to the table. I just don't like him as much as Teddy Bridgewater. That's all. But there is one guy that I don't know. Are you prepared to talk about him, or do you want me to take
I I
Blake Bortles?
I'm being perfectly honest. I don't have anything down for Blake Bortles.
All right, because this is not going to be nice.
Are you not a Blake Bortles fan?
All right, so the last quarterback we're going to talk about is Blake Bortles. Now, Bortles played 3 seasons of college ball. His pass percentage is lower than both Bridgewater and Manziel at 65.7. Over three seasons, his pass yards were less than Johnny Manziel in 2. So that's something to kind of be nervous about. His touchdown to interception ratio, not as good as either. But what we're looking at here is a guy that's really the flavor of the month. Blake Bortles had a great bowl game. He had an excellent combine. He's a guy that really people are seeing and hearing about for the first time, and he's skyrocketing. And that concerns me. The fact that Blake Bortles wasn't a part of the top quarterback conversation before coming into the college football offseason, or postseason, I guess I should
Hmm.
say, should be a major red flag for teams. Although Blake Bortles has that 6'5", 232-pound frame, and he looks like a NFL quarterback. He definitely looks the part when you watch him on tape.
You know,
But
well,
he also looks very scared.
did you know that he played at the same college as Dante Culpepper?
Yes, I did.
I did not know that. I just learned that. I pulled up his wiki while you were talking to have a bit of info here, and yeah, there we go. So, bit of a Vikings, maybe potential Vikings connection there for you fans.
Definitely. A lot of people talk about Bortles' arm strength, but to be honest, when you watch games, it's not all that it's made out to be.
Hmm.
He can make throws, but people said the same thing about Christian Ponder coming out of college. He's got a kind of wild touch. He seems really nervous in the pocket. And for me, I honestly don't even have a first round grade on Blake Bortles.
Hmm.
So for me to be doing this review is not really fair because I was hoping that Jordan, who was supposed to be here with us, would be able to handle this and tell us all the positive things. But to be honest, when I watch him play, I don't see a lot. I see, and this is going to come off as absolutely so mean how I say it, I see him as a poor man's Jake Locker.
Oh,
I've seen some people compare him as high as Andrew Luck, and I just shake my head and scratch it because I do not see that on tape. I see a guy who loves making short passes that turn into big gains,
hmm
and a guy who's nervous enough in the pocket that's good at timing routes, can't throw into a really tight enough window on a play to make a big play. I really worry about a team that selects Blake Bortles very high. I know I've seen mocks with him going number 1 overall, and to be honest, I hope he's off the board by the Vikings selection because I really would be nervous about him going to Minnesota.
I'm not a big fan of this one stat that I'm looking at right here. The 56 touchdown and 19 interception ratio. Uh,
Yeah, it's kind of disheartening, isn't it?
yeah, that just I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
here's the one that got me. Over 3 seasons,
mhm.
13 fumbles, 5 fumbles lost. That shows you his pocket
That's
awareness is not where it should be.
that sounds like Christian Ponder. Don't that sound like Christian Ponder?
I worry about him. I really do. And I want to give any player a chance. If the Vikings draft Blake Bortles, that's good. I will start supporting him. I'll hope
Of
that they
course.
can work with him and turn him into the quarterback that he can be. But right now, from a raw talent standpoint, I just don't see it. So when we look at all 3 quarterbacks as a group, we're leaving out some of the other top tier quarterbacks. I know a lot of people like Derek Carr
hmm
or Mettenberger or McCarron or a lot of the other guys out there. And I'm sure we'll
We
talk
can
a
we
little
can
bit more
cover those
about them
guys in a
later
later
on.
show because we like to go pretty, as you guys can tell, pretty in depth when we're going to talk about a player. Um,
But I want to make one statement before
sure.
I endorse any quarterback. Although I've kind of already endorsed Teddy Bridgewater. If the one certain player is available at number 8, I say they skip all these guys. And that gentleman is Khalil Mack.
Well, yeah. That's an
I love Teddy Bridgewater. I do. I think he'd be an awesome fit for Minnesota. But if for some reason Khalil Mack is on the board, I think none of these quarterbacks get selected. And that's the only player in this year's draft that I can say that about.
hey. I'm all for best player available. And if it's Khalil Mack, yeah, definitely you take him over top of a quarterback. There's even situations where I could see if, let's say, some of the other quarterbacks, Bridgewater, whatever, go early, and Johnny Manziel is there at number 8, where Johnny Manziel might not necessarily be best player available, which
True.
some people out there are not going to agree with that statement, but in terms of just absolute pure football ability, that might not be him. There might be other guys, like you said, like Khalil Mack, where you would pick him, where linebacker is just as much of a need as quarterback on this team right now.
Right, because right now the Vikings have a starting caliber quarterback in Matt Castle.
hmm
They don't have a starting caliber outside linebacker or a starting caliber cornerback.
hmm
Also, there's questions as to whether or not Audie Cole will be able to win the middle linebacker job. So they might be looking at a guy like C.J. Mosley if they end up
Oh,
trading
yeah.
down. So we have a really interesting situation where we have 3 quarterbacks that are getting a lot of hype and a lot of guys that are going under the radar.
hmm And call me crazy. What if Sammy Watkins is there?
Then you call up Detroit and say, hey, you want Sammy Watkins? Let's work out a trade.
Yeah. Like it could be good either way. Like
Could you imagine Detroit with Calvin Johnson,
no,
Sammy Watkins, and Golden Tate out there?
no, I don't want to.
Reggie Bush in the backfield?
Could you imagine Minnesota with Adrian Peterson, Cordero Patterson, Sammy Watkins, and Greg Jennings?
Yeah.
See, that'd be pretty nice too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I'm picturing him with the old offensive coordinator, so.
No, you don't want to do that with North Turner. We got we have an actual staff now. No more Bill Musgrave. No more Musgrave's play card.
So that's my overall opinion is that I like these quarterbacks, but there are players in this draft that I would take above them. Well, I guess I should say player because there's only the one. Teddy Bridgewater is my number
What
two
about
ranked
Clowney?
player.
What if
Clowney,
what if some odd situation happens and Clowney is sitting there at number 8?
I think the Vikings have already invested too much in guys like Everson Griffin and Brian Robinson and
Hmm.
Corey Wooten, and they already have enough guys to have a rotation to where I don't think that he would be the pick. And I think that if
I
Clowney was on the board, if he somehow makes it past Atlanta, which I think
That's
there's a
not going to
zero
happen.
percent
Yeah,
chance that happens, that the Vikings would have to trade down in that situation and get more picks.
yeah.
Because we've seen over the course of the years that we have no idea what to expect from Rick Spielman. How many times have we been sitting there and the Vikings are on the clock and they trade down, or
They
even in the
trade
first round they trade
they
back
trade
into the
up.
first round? And I know a lot of people, a lot of Vikings fans shut off the draft after they had their second selection in the draft last year, and
How exciting was that when Cordero Patterson when they traded back up to snag Cordero? That
then
was
you're watching
great.
the video of him introducing the players, and there goes Rick Spielman running out of the room.
It's pretty cool.
So with all the moving and shaking, it could be a really fun draft. These are three quarterbacks that all have a lot of NFL potential, some more than others in anyone's opinion.
Hmm.
That doesn't make one quarterback better than another. It just makes one a preference of somebody because if everybody values different things when it comes to quarterbacks. Remember that. So when someone says this guy sucks, just remember he's not really saying he sucks. He's saying that he doesn't have the skill set that I find necessary in a quarterback. Unless he actually sucks, then he sucks.
Which we don't. We're not gonna
No, none
go.
of these guys suck.
No, no, no. You're the other guy. We're talking quarterbacks. I know we're going long. What about Taj Boyd?
I'll be honest, I don't see Taj Boyd as draftable.
Jeez, really? I was gonna,
No.
I was gonna say late round. Like I would say, like fourth round for
If
Taj.
I'm an NFL GM, he is not on my board.
Well, there you go. There's Adam's quick synopsis of Taj Boyd.
And if he is on my board's really long.
You
Like really long.
got him in like the 11th round.
He's after Joe Don Duncan, if that tells you anything. I
That
love that name. That's why he keeps saying it. The tight end Joe Don Duncan. I know he's slated to be like about a seventh round pick, but man, that name just it strikes me. Joe Don Duncan sounds like something you'd see in a Marvel comic.
yeah, it does.
But I think that we're gonna have to cut her off here because
We went
we have a lot of
long.
fun talking about these
Yeah.
quarterbacks. And remember, feel free to tweet us, send us Facebook messages, post on our wall. Tell us which quarterback you prefer. And if you disagree with some of our statements, tell us. Don't just call us donkeys. Tell us, hey, this is what we disagree with. And I'm sure that both me and Kyle would be more than willing to have an actual conversation with you about it without resorting to name calling.
Unless you want to go with name calling, in which place I will
Yeah,
probably
that's Kyle's
I'll
department.
probably just block you over Twitter.
But I'd like to
I
thank you
ain't
for
got time
tuning
for
in.
that.
Remember to check out my work on the Viking Age. Remember to tweet to Kyle at Purple People Pod on Twitter.
Hmm.
Check out Facebook. And remember to stay classy, Minnesota.